Dmitry, and we will talk today about the yoga for your nature and some knowledge which turn my own practice around and my life around in a way. And I'll speak about why is this important, like to choose the yoga for your type, and why we can't treat everyone with the same approach. So there's a one size fits all relative not only to your trousers but also the yoga you do. And so we will talk about the problematic, why is this, and then we will talk about the how I came to the realization of it and what's happened, and I'll talk about the discovery of the teachings, because there are fundamental teachings beyond that. Some of the biggest teachers of this world who left some information about how they were teaching. There were also some directions for us, telling us how they were approaching that teaching. So it was a big revelation for me, and I'll share this with you. And in the end we will do the practice, which is we'll just demonstrate how yoga could be different for each dosha or for each type. So we use Ayurveda to find out your dosha in constitution, and then we use it as a diagnosis. So one of the way to find out how we can prescribe or how can we customize. There are different methods of finding out yourself. You could potentially study yoga and then teach for 8 years and then find out that actually, this thing which been taught to 100 people not necessarily relative to me. So you could find out that, or you can find out differently by coming to this workshop, for example. So let's talk about the problematic a little bit. Why has actually moved me to start really exploring this more and trying to get this knowledge across, because finding out some facts which is showing quite dangerous as well, because recently I've come across the statistics. So there is a study, the published study research showing that the 53% of people who practice yoga, particularly vinyasa styles, they injure themselves within the practice. So that's kind of relative to me, because if we divide doshic, right? So the 30% plus 10% double. So sometimes we have double doshas. So we have one predominant constitution and current state as well. So, and sometimes we have double doshas in us. So the 53% showing quite a bit that perhaps those people who do practice these styles of yoga, they might be relative for a kapha type, but not necessarily for the rest, those particular vigorous styles of yoga. So this is something which is something you can adjust, understanding who you are first, because it's like knowing first who you are. It's like, in a way, I look at the yoga sometimes as a manual for your body and mind as well. Well, particularly in text, they're talking about mind. The yoga is the calming the fluctuations of the mind. Chitta Vritta Nirodhi is the main stance on it by Patanjali. So first you know who you deal with, and then you find the manual for it, and then you apply it, right? So it's like a fridge. If the fridge arrives to you, first you want to understand, is it fridge or is it a microwave? Okay, it's fridge. And then you apply the certain techniques accordingly to treat, or put the milk to cool down rather than to heat up your soup. So stuff like that sounds obvious, but when we actually look at it, and you perhaps learned a bit yesterday on Ayurvedic cooking preparation as well, how different it could be. For some people the pepper is something which is fry them and get them hot, and the other ones get hiccup, like me for example. I get too much spice and I start hiccuping, normally, naturally. So my body just said to me, telling me, no, you can't go too far there. So the same thing with yoga, your attitude and how you approach. Because it's the two main things. So what you intake is the food related, and what you express, how you express yourself. And that's your yoga, and that's your practices you do, and that's your lifestyle, and that's your dinacharya. They call the routine, the daily routine, what you apply. It's also relevant, perhaps, understanding on if you look at how the plants are growing. So you won't treat the potato as a mango, right? So they require different approach. So you put a certain plant in a shade. Some plants, for example, you put is required to be in the shade. And if you put them on the sun, they will just gonna overburn or die off. You know, if you had your home plants, you might come across this. The same as some plants need plenty of sunshine, so they need to be there. If you put them somewhere in a corner, they're just gonna die. So some plants need more water, some plants need more heat. So different approaches how you treat them as well. It's a secret for the good gardening, right? So if you want to grow something well, so you want to understand where it's growing and apply certain food, certain treatment for it. Expose it to certain light, expose it to certain cold. You don't put the plants, for example, mango in the winter time, right? You're never gonna have the results you want. The same potato you can grow and can be hardy and can do a good job in a way. The same with the meditations and pranayamas and the yoga as well, because some techniques you can't just settle in them, and you try and you try because it works for everyone. You feel, oh, your friend is saying it's such a good yoga. I went to this class and I really had this amazing experience, or this practice, I don't know, whatever it is, transcendental meditation. Works for me amazing. And you try it and sort of does not work, or you can't quite settle, you can't quite keep the focus. So the same here, approach is identical. It's just because it's not designed for you. So the secret to success is to find which is actually clicks with you, which is designed to you. They say that the doshas, our constitutions, there's a main one, prakriti it's called, which you're born with. It comes from the past life, perhaps. So some of the things you developed, they start showing off in this life for this. And there is a vikruti, which is a current state, is the something you develop here. So the prakriti, which you come from the past life, which you are born with, you can treat with the diet and yoga expressions. The vikruti, your current state, you can treat with your lifestyle and the dinacharya, the routine, the daily routine. If something puts out you just something doing wrong, not accustomed to you. So there's different approach. If you want to understand that, we just gave you the prakriti test, which is you're born with. But if you want to go deeper, let us know. We can give you more tests to find out your current state, because sometimes current state could be easier way to treat. The good thing to understand that dosha means issue. So it's not that you are fire and or you are air or you are water, and that's the that's it. You know, it's just something which is aggravated, some elements pervading everything in this life, right? But just certain elements is predominant in us, and they're just aggravating a little bit more. So when we're aware of it and we work with the opposite qualities. So if fire is too much, then the water needs to be added to cool it down. If the air is too much, earth need to be added to ground it. So opposite. And that works with the physical aspects mainly. So the physical aspects we can treat very easily with this kind of stuff. And Ayurveda offers the herbs as well, because herbs has qualities of those stuff. So you can work with herbs as well as a part of the diet, in a way. And the same, like adding the petrol into the fire won't help, right? So understanding, okay, where's the petrol? So if I put the petrol to cool down the fire, it's just gonna get more problems. The other aspect, which was, I believe, why is so imposed on nowadays on everyone, this kind of one-size-fits-all yoga, is about this mass approach. So more and more people in one class. It's like a bit of consumerism thing. It's like economy of scale. Okay, let me earn lots of money and I like put this class for thousands of people and like treat the same everybody the same scale. However, the yoga never been taught like this. So even before it came without Ayurveda, because there's some political stuff there. The British was in India and destroying and closing down some of the Ayurvedic clinics there. However, the Ayurveda and yoga always came together as part of the Vedic sciences. So there are like 6 main, I believe. Which is it's like a sister science. In fact, Patanjali, who is the yoga sutras author, he's combined the knowledge which already was there, like shamanic pre-Vedic techniques, in what all the yoga teachers study now. So when you go to the yoga training, they will start studying yoga sutras Patanjali. So but not many people know that Patanjali actually was an Ayurvedic doctor himself. So can you imagine the Ayurvedic doctor teaching the same thing to everybody? It's like you don't teach the condition, you teach the person, right? Or you treat the condition, you treat the person and the imbalances. So it always was there, present in the teaching. However, it was lost for those reasons I gathered, but maybe more reasons. I don't know. If you find, let me know. I'm interested in this subject. Why is it? I feel it's more like an economy of scale, probably. Just pushing that, get it. It's a big business now. So, but it's not business really. It's the yoga is something for self-realization. So it's a tools for self-realization, and Ayurveda is for self-healing. So they come together. Self-healing will lead to self-realization. There are tools like this. So how do I came across this? So I was quite involved in Kundalini yoga. So my first degree was Kundalini yoga, and it was enormously helpful for me in that time when I was really practicing it very hard, because it was amazing time which brought birth to green broom eco community, hempen eco community, we were practicing together with the crew, and it gave us this endurance. It gave us this power to penetrate and go and kind of don't give up and have that, fire to continue to finish off. However, after a while, I've learned that it started to be problematic for that the same push and strain that very fiery practice starts showing on the collective we work with. So because I start finding myself a little bit irritated or critical quite always. When the first part of the development finished, the second part was nourishing for the project, right? There's a different energy needed. You now need to carry for the project, develop it well, without be close with the group. You know, we are also a non-for-profit, you know, cooperative without any hierarchy. So there shouldn't be any kind of push or this kind of strive to communication. However, I find it very hard. So it was like I was finding myself criticizing quite a lot, like people who I work with, or like internally I couldn't let go, and this perfectionism, you know, to strive to do it right, to do it well, and everybody should do this also right and well. And it was difficult for me, and it starts showing off in some of relationship at work and also like at home as well, because if I come back home with like heated emotions, it's always passed on to the people who are around me, right? So instead of being like very positive kind of person and normally quite calm, I find myself quite tense normally and critical. So, but the beauty of the community, eco-community, that people straight away, they tell you. So they kind of, if you have bumps, they're gonna tell you. And we have the structure at Hempen, which is it's called accountability body. So you have two people which sort of check in sometimes with you and gather the feedback and tell you that feedback towards you. So every month or every 3 months, I think, like for a couple of months, I start getting this feedback that, okay, wow. So, and I'm like, oh my God, what I'm doing? I'm like, I'm really carry for the project, and I love the people I work with, and you know, how come? So then I started to realize that there was a bingo. Okay, what's going on? What I do, maybe my practice as well. My practice is quite hardcore stuff, which is just releasing is good to make me achieve things. But however, there's a different energy. So I've started looking at it, and I've started consciously changing my practice accordingly. So adding some more cooling techniques, more meditative techniques to it, and just more wisely approaching that stuff. And things start changing. The friendships start flourishing. The family life improve and still there, which is amazing. So after 9 years, so it's and it starts just building up. Then I feedback as well from who I teach as well. I teach normally yoga classes regularly, so understanding how it affects other people as well start resonating within me. So I start studying this more, and before our baby arrived to this world, I decided, okay, I was a director of the production, a very busy production, and constantly thinking about innovations or whatever it is needs to be done to achieve. So it was busy time. However, I said I might not have time to do that when the baby arrives. So whatever happens, I need to go to the retreat now. Otherwise, so we decided. Karen did it as well, and myself. So I booked 2 retreats, one here and one in Russia, where I studied Hatha Yoga as well. I studied in Russia. It's amazing teachers there who I really trust, and very authentic teaching. So I've booked 2 retreats for 10 days, silent retreats, and I went there, and the revelation was just absolutely mind-blowing for me, because I saw something which I read about, you know, the nature of the mind, which you read and you agree, yes, I'm first one to agree with all these words. But then, you know, when you actually see it, how like you need some stillness for some time to do it. And relative to my constitution as well, I needed this to just withdraw myself from that constant active pull of the mind, to actually realize what sort of quality of my mind is, to be able to see beyond that. So some revelations there, so I couldn't sit still for like several days. I constantly was like jumping off, like, wow, how do I improve the, you know, bottling of the oils and stuff like that, or bring the new innovations into the process. So, and then there was also this Sadharma Pundarika Sutra came to me as well at the same time, quite. And I received like a download in a way of the teaching on a several level, on logical level, on a practical level, and also like visual level. And the Sadharma Pundarika Kriya, from this we now move on towards what the teachings are, what the teachers saying towards it. So Sadharma Pundarika Sutra is the Lotus Sutra, this famous sutra of the Buddha Shakyamuni wrote when he was 80 years. Well, he hasn't written it. He hasn't written anything. There was some people after his death, after 500 years, they wrote down some of his teachings. But anyway, that's Lotus Sutra describes the when he was 80 years old, he revealed the seed of the knowledge. Why he was teaching like this and why he was teaching differently, and actually that nirvana not necessarily exists, well, exists, but not necessarily the end point. So there's something else to it. And the teaching is that Sadharma, that's where we took also the name for our project, for Sadhama method, which we Sat true and Dharma is way, your own Sat way, your own way. So Sat Dharma, which Sat and Dharma in Pali, Dhamma. So Sat true, Dharma is your own Dharma in a way. So knowing your own Dharma, and that's the. So the Buddha is talking about in this sutra, where all the people and all the beings, well, not all, but like it was an enormous meeting from all. Apparently, there's so many beings came, and gods and Brahma and all those things. It describes who came. They apparently still in Gridkahurta mountain in India, where they have procession around, in respect around Buddha, and it's apparently still happening. I went there last 2 years ago to check out in the meditation if it's still happening or not. It feels like in Sutra is saying that the time has been stopped, so for those, so they be able to pay respect, to pay homage to Buddha, so they go around him. And for those people and beings, that time stops, so they go around. So in this meeting he revealed that knowledge, which is, if you have opportunity, you can read. I can read you in fact what he's saying, which is quite precise, so we can understand what he's doing. Okay, so the Buddha in Sadharma Pundarika saying, I reveal the law in its multifariousness with regard to the inclination and disposition of creatures. I use different means to rouse each according to his own character, such as the mighty of my knowledge. So it's basically, the interesting thing in this for me was it's revealed that the way of knowledge was given. It's not necessarily the body was the knowledge, but we actually go deeper. We trying to understand how this, Buddha was teaching. What was the tools he was used to be able to relate this knowledge to each person. So, and then it describes. So that's what from Buddhas. Now we're talking about also the Bhagavad Gita, what Bhagavad Gita talks about it. So Bhagavad Gita is, I can read you as well from that. So the Krishna is talking about, so Bhagavad Gita divides yoga in two main types. It says, in the beginning, the Krishna says, I created two yoga approaches in the world. The first is the yoga of knowledge for those of contemplative mind, contemplative minds, followers of Sabhyama, for example. And the second is karma yoga for those of the active bend of mind. So you see the knowledge is behind, the logic behind that is, Krishna himself, he was creating the yoga accordingly to people, what kind of mind they have. Either contemplative, okay, this is one thing for contemplative people. Yeah, either active people is the karma yoga for them. However, they're quite close. So you can follow the logic, I guess, in this one. And third one is the yogic Patanjali system. So if you heard, there's niyama and yama, which is the first fundamental level of the yoga, and they are ethical don'ts and do. For example, like keep yourself clean, don't steal, because don't kill, and don't. So there are like certain rules, and one of them is svadhyaya. Svadhyaya means your own way as well, or studying the teachings related to yourself, not anything else. Anything else, but that's what it means. It's something to relate it to yourself. Sva, it means like yours, sva, like maya, which is the same in Russian actually, sva, svoi or mine, and dhaya could be a teachings or your nature. So studying your own nature, and that's one of them in Patanjali yoga as well. So we see all those big teachings, or we know the probably one of the oldest we actually can get hold of in this realm. So the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas, like few thousand years old, the Sadhama Pundarika Sutra, and that knowledge 2,500 years old. So those texts are kind of the oldest, and the yoga. So they quite right comes from three things. The right knowledge arises from three things: your own experience, and then the opinion of someone who you respect, or someone knowledgeable person, or the knowledgeable text, and if it's also written, if you can find the confirmations in original texts. So once those three comes together, then there's some possibility to create a more or less correct attitude towards certain things. So this is what it feels into it. And let's now talk a little bit about doshas before we go into the practice, so you can learn. So we haven't started practicing too much, so you can digest, because it's best to do yoga after. So be good to, who is the Pitta here? The fire. Okay, great. And Vata. Vata. Okay, Vata. I normally group people together. However, we kind of settled already Vata as well, yeah? And the Kapha? Okay, Kapha, okay.
I don't know, I think I'm picked to Kapha.
Okay, lovely. So this is now become relative. So we use Ayurveda like to find out the easiest way to determine your constitution, and accordingly to apply the teachings towards it. So it's sometimes very helpful to learn about other types, to understand it that actually other times it's not you at all. So you kind of read about Kapha, if you are fire, for example, Pitta predominant, if you read about Kapha, then you kind of understand, okay, this is definitely not me. Or you read about Vata quite a lot, you kind of also understand, oh, okay, that's actually definitely not me. And then sometimes this could be a helpful way to go if you find it difficult to understand who you are. So it's like kids, you know, they first say no, I don't want this, I don't want it, but without, not like that, oh, I know exactly what I or who I am. Or sometimes you can go from the other door to the back door of saying, actually, this is not me, denying, and then you release to the point. So let's talk a little bit about the qualities of the doshas, and we can start with Pitta, that and relative to the yoga Pitta does. So Pitta has generally very inherent drive to achieve, to that perfectionism, and sometimes this could strain, so, or overheat. So the heat, you can also understand as the fire, right? The fire can burn very quick if you don't put enough fuel to it, so it's just gonna burn out very quick, and also leave you burn out or agitated and critical again. So as a consequences, the mind very sharp, the mind very active, but could go into that critical perspective. So quite criticizing everybody. And what I've learned actually about this particular critical thing for Pitta, where I can suggest what can help to think about criticizing others. So the understanding that actually the qualities you think the most, you embody. So if you constantly criticize someone in your head, okay, this should be done. So you actually, after a while, you embody those qualities yourself, because you constantly spin them in your mind. So that's one aspect. And the second aspect is anything you criticize, you lose. So nobody likes to be criticized. So that's another thing for relationships and working in a team. So the critical can just destroy quite a lot. And the main thing for Pitta is the anger. The anger can be the most depletive emotion, and it's within the yogic system. The anger is your base chakra, and it has the biggest valve in a way, the biggest flow. If you express anger within like a few seconds, you can deplete your creative energy quite a lot. So it's one of the most destructive emotions there. You can process it, and there are different stories how to process, and I'm not saying that, you know, we don't have it. It's there to ignite, and for the Pitta is the most closest to the surface. Any spark, if you don't work with it, just gonna end up into that reactive attitude or reactive relationship. So any spark can bring that anger very quick and on the surface. And you sometimes forget, oh, why did I start it? It wasn't very intelligent to throw my keys, you know, but like on a wall or break. Should have done it? Maybe not, right? After glass of. So, but the good news, the fire is the most transformative quality. So the fire is actually what's transformed, what purifies. So you have the quality actually to turn it around very quick and turn it around into the transformation, into the beautiful transformation for yourself. However, the certain techniques will be needed, so your practice, your expression needs to be adjusted towards it. So it means more meditative, more cooling practices. There's a certain pranayamas, and there's the pranayamas are most direct way to cool down. So your practice should be finishing always with the cooling practice. So you can actually sweat, you can like strain a little bit in your practice, however, but you need to channel it in the end. You need to cool it down so you end up with a peaceful and calm mind, and not come out of your yoga session with like even more pushy and you know, negative towards people around you. And there are techniques for this, and that could be, and retreats is another big thing. And basically meditative techniques are the one to look into it. And also particular meditative techniques. So the visual is very active. You can visualize things very, very vividly.
Question.
Sure.
So you talk about obviously having too much fun, and you talk about the negative aspects. But what about the positive aspects of that, when you have that fire and it does release your drive, and you're able to like boom, 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 get things done, and you're really on a high, and you're like, yeah, this is doing it. You like accomplish stuff, and then that gives you more. So your fire is really high, but you're doing a lot of good things. Isn't that also a good thing in a sense to have?
Yes, so there are positive aspects when you tackle those negative with your work, like with your food, and then there are positive things come in, like achieving a bigger goals. It's like actually seeing the things on a larger scale, where they unite, and not necessarily spending your energy or like firing where it's not needed, or where it's small goals which you might need to preserve. Is that seeing, and that calmness of the heart will give you that ability to communicate in a right way with people, in a right way to communicate. So in a way it's saying, if you communicate with people from the calm, peaceful self, every communication is a success. So people will learn it, people will trust to it, and you will build up on that. If your communication is abrupt, it's like you know, critical and fury, you get things done, but then, you know, not necessarily end up in a right state for yourself, and also for your friends and for your family. So it's the how you achieve and how big the things are. So the Pitta has possibility to achieve big things if they put that strive behind selfless service, for example, because there is also there quite a bit of the best thing for myself, choosing very long time, but choosing the best thing we have. So if you're able to put it behind ego in a way, and then it could bring. So the Pittas are amazing leaders, because that kind of sharp mind and ability to communicate very clearly, also ability to lead by example. So achieve in that manner, but in a kind way. The Pitta also, once it develops from that positive calm state, there's a friendship develops as well. Strong friendship. Pitta great friends. Once this kindness shine through, you know, once the strife a little bit cool down, then the kindness and acceptance arise, and then the different qualities, different relationships start arising. And in the end of the day, what do you want to achieve? What is it for? Done, bam, bam, bam. So is it to feel good, right? Is it to feel happy? So you are in a good relationship with people around you, trusting you, and they don't, like, you know, hate you behind your back and stuff like that. So it's more painful when you end up with those stuff, rather than, you know, maybe sometimes slower, but and cooler. So that's Pitta, and there are like many more amazing qualities. So there's some of the physical as well. There's the acid reflex, the pain of the lower back can come to play, the problems with eyes, so the feet as well. The energy pushes, the area of accumulation is in your stomach, and that it could push up or down. So there are some physical reflexes as well, which you can easily diagnose yourself that the Pitta has a problems with that, like indigestion and stuff like that. If you balance it, the Pitta digestion is the best, because it's like a fire can digest anything as long as it's got like fuel regularly. If you don't put fuel regularly, say that don't speak to Pitta before you give them a meal or cool it down. So arrive back home, have some food, and then speak. Not like when it's hungry. And so the fasting as well, it could be aggravating. So be aware. So Vata, the people. So more of air and the ether attitude, and there's lots of beauty and good to it. However, let's start from the negative, and then we'll move to the positive as well. So the Vata normally slim, and then kind of could have some deficiency with the tissues. So it's could be quite sensitive souls. So could be very creative, but sensitive to the environment and where they are at. So there's often the digestion is very slow as well, and constipation and stiffness come through. So in Vata people, that's one of the main things. However, you can channel it, so there's lots of good tools to do it with like lubricating the joints, and certain yoga is to not to push too hard, because Vata is a bit like air. It can blow very abruptly, and then it can lead to some injuries because of that. People can like move too quick, suddenly realize, or trying to meditate, but there's an inner kick. Oh, I remember I needed to do this, and I needed to do this, and then you kind of remember about them while doing something else. Oh, I was meditating actually. So stuff like that. So it's the inner kicks, this kind of from within, this like a wind comes and it's hit you to do something, and you forget yourself. And could be injuries because of the stiffness, it's a dryness in the joints. So for that you need the yoga actually daily. So the Vata needs the yoga daily, but it should be a subtle yoga. It should be something not to go to extremes, and less deep back bends, so more strength and flexibility to develop in those. So Kapha people, more predominance of the water and earth in the body and mind as well. So with the Kapha is often to do, they struggle with weight control, for example. The weight could develop, there's some obesity could develop very easily, and generally that slowness, slow start, perhaps it could be irritative. Quite sensitive to cold as well, so being cold is, and generally difficult for them to start things or get things going. So, but when they start, they're like a train. They get to the finish and they be much more consistent in that approach, and perhaps finish that normally. So for Kapha people is particularly important to get the circulation going. So in the morning to break through that, get some sweat going to actually to step into it, and that's where like vinyasa style yoga is excellent for for kapha style, for these aspects. And once they go through it, they could develop some really positive attitudes of nourishing others and loving, compassionate nature shines through. So the negative one is greed. The kapha is, if the kapha is out of balance, it can like try to possess more things. Okay, mine, property or whatever. But then if you work it through with your spiritual practice, then it's become more of a loving, nourishing, and kindness. So you can turn those things around into some incredible qualities which can sustain the community around you as well, because it's like a project, you know. You need the kapha people who very good attention to details, for example, very capable, and can actually unwrap these qualities of capability and bring that to the environment of project or family, for example. It's so the Pitta people marry kapha people or kapha people now, and Vata could potentially both marry both. So that's the like a little overview. There's a lot there to discover, and for this we're doing the Sadhama methods is based on an individual approach, as you probably figured by now. So for this we developed the programs where we filmed about 140 postures in a Hardwick house actually, and different techniques, and so we classified them accordingly to constitution, and we're creating the platform now. It's lots of works, taking ages, and I have to be very cool about it. Believe me, how much coolness I need to inspire, not to kind of push it. So it will be ready at some point. So
jumping in that river, mate.
yeah. I'm glad I live just next to it. So yeah, I use it. So swimming for Pitta is the best thing to cool down. So, and that's the program. And Karan does the meal plans and all the nutritional aspects, and I do more of yoga, and so we create for people those progressive programs. So and then after that you learn what types, and you learn the guidance of your practice and your food, and then you move on with yourself, because Ayurveda is not about telling people what to do. Ayurveda is more about, and yoga is more about observing yourself, understanding those guidances, and then applying to beyond that kind of classification of the doshas. We also have our own qualities, which we not necessarily can test always. Sometimes the individual consultations are best for that, because you can relate to the teacher what is actually your nuggets there, and then it could be communicated more clearly. Sometimes in the Vini yoga they say don't listen to like books, or listen to what your teacher told you, even if it's like completely opposite around. And you find it in the Milarepa biography, 1001 songs of Milarepa, where it describes what teacher was doing with him. Crazy things. And you don't understand why. So sometimes, when someone who knows you, sometimes it's good to have someone who, to relate, to bounce some ideas or how it's going as well. Because you can read, but this personal passing, it could be very valuable to have those people who around you. And okay, so ready to move a little bit. Let's. I'll show for each dosha what we'll do. We'll do a little practice like a Surya Namaskar, right? Everybody knows sun salutations. I'll show you that the sun salutation can be done differently for each dosha. We'll have it's a 3 different sun salutations a bit, and different attitude as well. So it's not just about the type of posture, but it's your attitude to your practice. How you approach it, how fast you approach it, what breath you approach it. So let's get your mat out, ready for rock and roll.